And what we do for link building nowadays is purpose-driven SEO. So what that is for pretty much any brand, you can find a purpose that is aligned with the brand, and you can create campaigns related to this purpose. And that's why we came up with the purpose-driven SEO approach, because these are relevant links that are natural, except for the fact we're sending an email to get them. And we're able to get links from high authority organizations, because these are the organizations we're reaching out to that care about these causes or the purpose behind our SEO campaign.
Well, thanks everyone for joining in today. I'm very excited to be joined by today's guest. We have Dale Bertrand on the show with us. So he's the founder and president of Fire&Spark. Dale blends his background in artificial intelligence and marketing expertise to deliver SEO solutions to Fortune 500 companies. With over 15 years of experience, he's been leading the way to redefine SEO and educates on SEO best practices at the top industry conferences in the world. He's joining today to explain purpose-driven SEO, his perspectives on SEO today, and what's next for the industry. So Dale, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you here. So I know that we have a lot to go over, and you've got a lot of amazing things to share. So let's just jump right into it. Start me off. How did you get your start into the world of SEO and marketing?
Well, that's going back pretty far. I'm not sure you want to go back that far, but I was building websites and doing some SEO in college. That was like 25 years ago, so long time ago. Then I worked as a software developer. I worked in the semiconductor space, but then I switched over to doing SEO and marketing full time in 2008. So 2008 was the time that I really started doing nonstop link building. That's what I was doing back then. And then that turned into a broader set of services related to SEO and content that we deliver at my agency, Fire&Spark, now.
Awesome. So how did Fire&Spark come to be, and what were you hoping to achieve by setting out and starting your own agency?
Well, it's been a long journey. When we started, we were publishers. So really what we were doing back then was we built a number of websites, sell advertising on some of them. Other sites that we built were really lead gen sites where we would sell the leads. So the business started as a publishing business. We probably had a dozen, maybe more websites we were working on. And all of the traffic for those websites was generated it was all organic traffic. So that's all we were doing, was building content and doing link building. So back then, 90% of the effort was on the link building side, 10% was actually building content. And if you fast forward to about 2015, I made the decision to sell all of those sites. So we sold off those properties, and we ditched that revenue that we had coming in from advertising, which was really nice because it was nice and steady. But we instead decided to focus on services. So now we're a services business, and we do SEO and content for businesses of a number of different types.
Okay. Well, talk to me about those services. So who are you today? Who are you helping, and how big is your team today?
So there are 20 of us, and we're based in Boston. The types of SEO campaigns we run, we're really focused on two sides of the SEO recipe there, which is basically doing link building, like I said, using the purpose-driven SEO strategy, which we can talk about. And then on the content side, we're generating content. We call it SEO for revenue, which is content that's designed to convert. So the issue I have with SEO content is a lot of it's designed to rank and generate organic traffic. But if it doesn't convert, what good is it, right? So we really, on the content side, we focus on making sure that we're targeting the right keywords and the right intent behind those keywords for our clients, for the customers that our clients are going after. Basically, we want to make sure that we're answering questions that their customers are asking when their customers are making a purchase decision. And then we want to make sure that we have the right conversion points in the content. And then we write the copy on that content to bring people from the intent to the conversion point. And then the last thing I'll say about content is most people for SEO content, they're writing articles. And it's important nowadays, if you're doing SEO and you're creating content, to look at alternative formats. Things like Q&A content, service pages, niche collections, Q&A content. There's a lot of different types of content that isn't articles. And we found that for the most part, those what we call alternative content types are better for earning rankings and getting traffic that converts and converting that traffic at the end of the day into revenue. So that's what we call SEO for revenue on that side.
Okay. So, I mean, we've got some pretty interesting things to dig in on there. And I definitely want to talk to you a little bit more about link building and your perspective on that part. But I understand that you've sort of authored this idea of Authority-First SEO. And I'm wondering if you could explain that to me and what sets it apart from, say, traditional SEO best practices.
Yeah, so traditional SEO best practices really focuses on technical SEO and on-page optimization. And there are a lot of good things to do there. I mean, it makes sense to do on-page optimization. And then also on the technical side, especially if there's something broken about your website that is preventing Google from seeing your content or indexing your pages, then yeah, we want to fix that. So we want to do some technical SEO. But Authority First, what that really came from is that the majority of the sites that we work on are built on a modern CMS. So something like WordPress or Shopify or HubSpot. And these modern CMSs, like, they're not broken. So when it comes to even on-page optimization, getting the keywords in the right places and on title tags, and then doing like a technical audit and expecting that you'll find things that if you fix them will significantly increase your traffic, like that just doesn't happen when you're working on a modern CMS. So what Authority First SEO is all about is that if you could improve your authority with Google, that's proving things like expertise, authority, and trust through the relationships that you have that might be reciprocal, or backlinks, or engagement, or Google reviews, or the company that you keep. So proving to Google that you have relationships with authoritative individuals and organizations in your space. It's all about the authority side of SEO. That is what is going to significantly improve your rankings, traffic, and organic conversions at the end of the day. So a big driver there is link building. And I know, we can talk about Pitchbox, because Pitchbox has really helped us accelerate our link building. But we focus for the link building on what I call purpose-driven SEO. So what that is for pretty much any brand, you can find a purpose that is aligned with the brand, and you can create campaigns related to this purpose. And I'm going to give you one example here. We worked with a company that I would consider a boring manufacturing company. What they do is they manufacture Velcro straps. These are straps that you would wrap around bundles of wires if you were installing networking cables in a building or something like that. Right. And so that the two owners of this business, they're manufacturing engineers. So that's what they know. That's what they care about. They're constantly optimizing their manufacturing processes. So they don't know much about marketing, and they don't do much for marketing. But they came to me and they wanted to get more organic traffic to their self-service e-commerce site. So that's when I started talking to them. It was clear that they needed authority, and we saw an opportunity to do some link building. So the campaign that we put together, and where this campaign came from was talking to one of the founders of this business. I found out that he was volunteering at a local vocational tech school. And so we put together this campaign that we called the Campaign to Recruit the Next Generation of Electricians. And that is really recognizing the fact that there are a number of trades that are really good jobs for young people. They're not sexy, right? So young people aren't, they don't know about these jobs. They're not clamoring for these jobs, but they're good jobs. So this campaign we put together was really to get the word out about these jobs and training that's available, scholarships that's available, and helping people understand that these are good career paths for a lot more people than are actually pursuing them. So what that campaign allowed us to do was to partner with electricians unions, even some first responder unions, and other organizations that cared about helping young people find job opportunities. And they would link to the campaign page on our client's website, and that helped with authority and backlinks and all that good stuff to improve their rankings. And that's just one example of authority-first SEO, but really the link building strategy we used around the purpose-driven SEO, link building strategy.
Okay. Well, you really were able to dig in and to find a creative solution for a client that you said is quote unquote boring. And I think people listening to this might be wondering, hey, I really like what you're saying here, Dale, and I like this strategy, but I don't know if my business has a purpose or a mission that I can align with. So I'm wondering if you were talking to businesses, you're saying, I don't know how to find that creative purpose.
So I am
what would you
so
say?
happy that you asked that question, because we've been able to find one for every single, this might not be true in the future, but every single company that we've talked to, we've been able to find one. And the reason why I give that example of the boring manufacturer is because that was a hard one. But we found it. So what we have is, like, as a part of our Authority-First SEO approach and link building, we have a questionnaire that we go through where we ask you about your business, your brand. Maybe there's some charities you're already working with. Maybe one of your founders was a member of the military. There's 20 of these questions. And we in the past, we've been able to find something that we can build a campaign around. If you can come up with something novel that is aligned with your brand, and you can find some authoritative individuals, might be influencers in the space, or organizations, maybe trade groups, maybe conferences, that care about it, then you can make this purpose-driven approach work. Sarah, if we have time, I'll give one more example. We used to run a website that did reviews of baby products, and they were handmade baby products. And we wanted to do some link building to improve their rankings and their traffic. And what we found was that there was a law that was being considered, it hadn't been passed yet, that would have required anyone manufacturing baby products, including handmade one-off baby products, they would have to do $100,000 worth of lead testing before they could sell one product. Now, if that law had passed, it would have put most of the makers that were reviewed on this website just out of business, because there's no way handmade manufacturers could afford it. So what we did to improve the authority and do some link building on this website was we led the charge against this law. What that allowed us to do was we interviewed a number of makers who would be affected. We interviewed some retailers who were afraid that their business would be affected. We also we did some outreach to some law firms that were working against this law, and then also some advocacy groups that were working on behalf of the toy industry who were against this law. So what we had at the end of the day that was really effective for us was we had some firsthand accounts of how this law would affect handmade makers, toy makers, and retailers. Those were interviews and stories that we had written. And then also through the outreach that we did, we were able to get those organizations that we reached out to link to that content. Because what they're doing is they're trying to make their case, maybe in Congress or maybe to other industry trade groups. And they're able to use our content as what I call citable content in their outreach, their advocacy that they're doing. So when we're doing another concept we haven't talked about, when we're doing one of these purpose-driven SEO campaigns for backlinks, we want to create citable content that other organizations who are doing their own advocacy would point to and link to. That helps us, obviously, but it's useful to them, and that's the reason why we're creating it. And that worked very well with this baby products website that we were promoting.
Yeah, I think, in light of all that, you're seeing a tangible change happen. But walk me through why this strategy might matter in the eyes of Google, and maybe how Google is changing enough today where people really do need to be thinking a little bit more outside of the box with these campaigns, and how it is that they're meant to be building backlinks and changing their SEO strategy.
Yeah, there's two things that are changing. You touched on Google and their AI and how it's just so much better at finding the content searchers are looking for, but also it's better at giving the right credit, the right weight to backlinks. So there's a lot of backlinks that Google's AI will see that it'll just ignore because they might look spammy or maybe they're paid backlinks. And that's why we came up with the purpose-driven SEO approach, because these are relevant links that are they're natural, except for the fact we're sending an email to get them. But they're certainly not paid for links. They're certainly not manufactured. They're not on a private blog network or something like that. And we're able to get links from high authority organizations, because these are the organizations we are reaching out to that care about these causes or the purpose behind our SEO campaign. What I love about the purpose-driven approach, when it's done right, and that's important, it needs to be the right cause, the right copy on the page about the cause, the right citable content, the right copy in the emails. When it's done right, you're reaching out to somebody at an organization, or maybe it's an influencer who is like-minded. They care about the same purpose that you care about. They're not going to ask you for money. They're doing their own advocacy when you're reaching out to a targeted list of people. They're going to use the content that you're writing to do their own advocacy, to get the message out that they already care about. So they're just going to link to it as long as you're building the right content. And so that's what I love about it. Like, it's basically a way to do targeted outreach where you're actually going to get a response, because you're reaching out to a targeted list of people and you know what they care about and you share that purpose with them.
Okay. Well, it might be something you just said here, but worth asking. Do you have a favorite link building tactic?
So for me, link building isn't as technical as it is asking the right questions about the brand to surface what that purpose-driven approach would be. And that gets, it feels almost like a branding exercise, a lot like a PR exercise, but the purpose that we choose needs to be authentic to the brand. It needs to be something that the leadership and the founder would get behind in order for it to work.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I like this question because I feel like it changes for every single person. What do you think is the most important quality of a good link?
Oh, that is... So as close to natural as possible, in the fact that it's not paid, it's not incentivized. It's a link that, the reason why they're linking is to endorse the content, whatever that means. They might agree with the message. They might think the content is useful. They might want to promote the content for their own reasons. But we want it to be organic in that way. And I like the word organic rather than the word natural, because typically the word natural means that they tripped on it. they found it because they were writing an article and it was high quality, so they included it as an internal link in the article. But what we do is we do more of what I would call organic links, which is we are doing outreach for links, but they're links that aren't incentivized. So those are really the best type of links. And obviously, we want the organization that's linking to be as authoritative as possible. Back in the day, I used to focus on .edu links. Nowadays, I still love a good edu link, but there are plenty of .coms and .orgs and .ais and .everything else that are pretty authoritative also. So that's pretty much what I would go after.
Okay. Great answer. Now this is a hot take question. Do you think link building is overrated, underrated, or fairly rated?
Both. There's all of the above.
Okay.
So it's underrated because high quality backlinks that Google recognizes as high quality are more valuable than ever because they're harder to get than ever. And it's overrated because people also often equate link building with spammy, I call them low quality strategies. And if you're pursuing low quality strategies, then it really is overrated because it's just not going to help you at the end of the day. Okay.
I love that answer. Well, what about team building? How do you go about hiring for your outreach team, and what qualities do you look for?
So at the end of the day, we're looking for people who have good writing abilities, because we're hiring marketers at the end of the day. So if you can write well, that's going to make it easier for you to do a lot of things involved with marketing, everything from content to sending emails to, crafting subject lines and irresistible offers and all that. But the other thing about good writers is that they tend to have like a clear thought process. They tend to be clear, thoughtful, analytical, logical thinkers, which is a good thing. So I'm always looking for people who are first and foremost like a good writer, and then from there, since we hire people, we tend to hire people who are early career. It has to do with their attitude. You can tell if somebody's eager to learn, eager to work on a team and be a good teammate, and somebody who wants to work with clients and do a good job working with clients. That's important. And then there is an analytical piece. There's an analytical piece where you want to make sure it's somebody who can jump into a tool like Google Analytics and learn their way around it, understand their way around it. They could export a CSV from a tool like Google Analytics and do a simple analysis. But that really comes down to the fact that they're willing and able to learn, and they're a logical, analytical thinker, and they're not afraid of the technology. They're not afraid to jump into Excel and learn something new. But that's really the way I think about hiring.
Well, that's an excellent description of marketers. I think we need to be sending this out to like all the marketers out there for just a little vote of confidence. Like, hey guys, got some great skills there. So I guess final question for this round is, what's the biggest mistake you've made in link building?
Oh, geez. I mean, if you have another hour, we could talk about all of them, but it's hard to come up with the biggest mistake. But there was a time where we did some outreach to some folks that we didn't realize were at the same company as the folks that hired us to do some link building, and there was some stickiness that was caused because the folks that received those emails didn't think we should be doing soliciting links at all. So that was actually the biggest mistake, because link building 101 is have a do not contact list when you're doing outreach. So we learned that lesson early on.
Okay, that's a great example. Thank you so much for sharing. So I know part of why we're here today is to talk a little bit about your journey, and then you'd mentioned Pitchbox earlier. So paint me a picture of how you were operating, say, prior to Pitchbox. Are your agency different at the time? Were operations different?
Yeah, we were doing the same thing we're doing now, but just less efficiently. Okay. So the one thing that's very time consuming with link building is finding your link targets, like who you're going to reach out to. And, we would spend hours and hours doing that in a spreadsheet. And Pitchbox just made it so much easier, especially with the targeted campaigns that we want to run now. There was a time where, sure, just scrape Google results for a bunch of keywords and find some contact information and go, but that approach doesn't really work. So we needed a tool that could allow us to be more advanced when it comes to building a targeted list for these pretty tight campaigns that we like to run. And then the other thing was just staying organized, keeping track of who did we reach out to, what did they say? Oh, they said they were gonna post a link. They wanted some more information. Did we send it? Did they post that link? Like so many pieces like that Pitchbox helps us to be more organized with. So we just end up saving a ton of time and getting more links because we have better prospect lists, and more links because we're staying on top of follow-up when people have questions, might reach back out to us and things like that. So it's been super useful tool. One thing that I didn't say is that, from the beginning, we've always been huge on personalized emails that we send out. The worst thing you could do is, come up with an email template and just, press the send button. It goes out to 1,000 people, Google bans your account. It's just not the way that we do it. So we have much smaller lists of targets, individually personalized emails, which can be time consuming. But Pitchbox helps a lot to keep that organized and to help us with the research that we do into each individual contact, which is huge because outreach emails need to be personalized and custom nowadays. It really has to do with building targeted lists. So that is so huge because we could come up with a campaign that we're excited about, one of our purpose-driven campaigns. But if we can't find a tight list of individuals with accurate contact information that we know want to hear about this campaign, they want to promote the content that we created around this campaign, then we're dead in the water. That's the biggest part that Pitchbox helps us with. When we made a number of the improvements I told you Pitchbox helped us with, we were able to get campaigns with 1%, 2%, sometimes up to 5% link rate. And for us, when you pair the authority-first strategy that we talked about for link building with our conversion strategy for the content side, where we're focused on building content that is designed to convert rather than content that's just designed to rank and get traffic, like those two things together have just supercharged our SEO campaign. So we couldn't be more thankful for the help on the technology side to supercharge what we're doing on the authority building and content side.
Supercharged. I love that. Okay. You've got this depth of experience in the industry, and I know that you're asked a lot of the same questions all the time. I'm just wondering, what do you think it's going to take to stay ahead in the future in terms of how AI is changing things, how SEO is changing, link building is changing? What's going to work?
Three things I could think of. One is like a renewed focus on understanding what are your customers looking for when they're making a buying decision, because if you can create that content, Google's looking to give them that content.
Okay.
The second thing is understanding how Google's AI, shift to AI changes the game. A lot of us in SEO understand the page rank algorithm, which is still there, but Google's AI is really good at finding the right content that matches the search intent behind the query. Google's AI knows what the search intent is when somebody types a query into Google, and Google's AI knows if your content is answering that question or if your content is satisfying that search intent. So that's important. And then the third thing is AI tools for SEO. Everybody's getting really excited about ChatGPT. It's a bad idea to do like one shot, press a button. Hey, I just got an article and all I have to do is press a button. Let's put that on the web. That's going to be the Google. I mean, what's really going to happen with that type of content is Google's going to notice that it's not generating the engagement that Google wants to see. But these AI tools, even the like generative AI ChatGPT tools, they're going to accelerate our ability to create high quality content if we use them correctly. And Sarah, that's a whole nother podcast. But we've been developing, approaches on how to generate, like, for example, this is a question I'll leave you with. How do you do real thought leadership with an AI tool like ChatGPT? This is something I've been thinking about for a year, and I feel like we have it solved. But the reason why it's hard is because the definition of real thought leadership is you're basically answering a question that Google can't answer. And ChatGPT can't answer anything that Google doesn't know because all of its information is coming from the web, right? But if you wanted to answer a question like, what should the SEO strategy be for this particular business? Or why do small businesses want to work with a local agency rather than a national agency? There's just a lot of questions in there that Google can't answer, and that's real thought leadership. How do you do that with AI?
I'm so happy you brought that up because, like you said, it would be an entirely different podcast within itself, and with your expertise in that realm, I wanted to ask questions on it, but I'm glad that you just planted some seeds. I did want to ask you at least one or two personal questions because there's still a lot of heart in doing what you do. So what personally gets you out of bed every morning to get up, build links, have an agency, do SEO, speak at conferences, you name it?
So I know the answer to this one. Like it's really working with entrepreneurs, maybe their business founder, or other folks who are marketing leaders that I personally want to help. Because like I believe that their business deserves to succeed, or they've got a message or a product or a service that they want to get out into the world. And I agree with them. I feel like I'm part of the team, and I can use my technical skills, my PR skills, my content skills, my SEO skills to help get that message out or help that product or service see the light of day. And that's what I love.
Beautiful. Is there anything exciting on the horizon for you that's next?
I think we touched on it, which is that like on the technology side of our industry, things are changing quickly. I know that Pitchbox has some interesting ideas for how to lead some of that change, which I think is awesome. So what I'm excited about is just staying on top of all the new tools and figuring out how to actually use them in a productive manner. Some of the hype is just hype. Some of the tools aren't that useful, but some of the tools are gems that are really going to change the way that we work as marketers and SEO specialists. And I want to find those before everybody else does, because there's obviously an advantage in that. But that's really fun. It's really fun to just to be on that quest on the technology side.
Brilliant. Well, I love your energy, Dale. This has been so wonderful to be able to chat with you today and talk about, what's exciting in the moment, what's exciting on the horizon for everything in and around SEO. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective with our audience. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, where could they reach you?
So Fire&Spark, all spelled out, .com. So that's my website. You can reach out to me there, reach out to anybody. They'll put you in touch. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Dale Bertrand at LinkedIn, at Fire&Spark. And then my email address, feel free to email me directly, Dale, D-A-L-E, at Fire&Spark, all spelled out. Happy to answer questions related to link building, SEO, content, conversion strategy for organic, which is another thing that we can go deep on next time, Sarah. I love talking about this stuff, so I don't want folks to hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on, and I'm glad that everyone knows where they can follow up and reach out to you. So enjoy, and can't wait to see what you guys get up to next.
All right, awesome. We'll talk next time, Sarah.
All right. Thanks, Dale.